All right, seventh graders, once you guys have your background painted and you're happy with the results, remember you can always do 2 coats of paint, let it dry, practice a few trees on your butcher paper at the table, and then go back and find your background once it's dry. And you can sketch in pencil, hopefully you can see this, a nice tree. All right, so it doesn't have to be fully detailed, but you should kind of have it fill 80% of your background. And then all the little pieces like twigs and such you can freehand with the paintbrush. All right, so this is our first step. Remember, your background needs to be dry. Next, let's say you start painting it in with black paint. This is what I mean by taking a couple of different kinds of brushes to serve different purposes. I like a bigger brush to fill in bigger pieces like the trunk and the roots, and then a teeny tiny brush like this to freehand some small branches and to make your tree look extra intricate. Remember, you're going to want to do a couple of coats of your black paint because it is a silhouette and it's supposed to be opaque. We shouldn't be seeing through the paint. You shouldn't see the colors in your background through your black paint. All right, so I am just going over some areas that look like they are thin. And I'm using this teeny tiny brush to add little extra twigs and details at the end that I don't necessarily need to paint in or draw in with pencil. I'm just going to freehand them with my paintbrush. And again, let it dry and go back in and find areas where you see your paint is way too thin and give it a second coat. All right, so your next step is you want to start to get here. You want to get to the point where your tree is very opaque, it's black, it's fully detailed. And now you're going to discover your light source is your moon in this painting. So your light source is going to cast a little bit of a highlight on your trees. And you're going to see in this example the highlight's done in yellow, and it's done on the area of the tree where the light would hit directly upon it. So if in this case, your moon is in the upper left-hand corner, that means the left-hand side of a lot of these branches are going to get a thin little line of a tint. Now the tint could be of anything. This is a tint of yellow, you can do a tint of green, purple, does not matter, but it needs to be a very light color mixed with white. All right, so here is fully done tree. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix up a tint of red, also known as pink. And all I need to do is incorporate a little bit of red into my white. Figure out where my light source is, and I would say my moon is in the upper right-hand side, so that means the right-hand side of these branches are going to get a very small, thin line of pink. And once again, you probably need to go about this in 2 coats again. So get in there, make sure your paint is dry first. You don't want to have your black paint mixing with your highlight. You want to make sure that everything's dry before you move on to this step. All right, and take your time. Use a really small brush that helps things. And you don't want to have a super fat line. You want it to be nice and thin and subtle. All right, like so. I'll leave examples out on the table. And once again, wait for everything to dry before you move on to this step. Make sure your tree is completely painted black. There's no thin parts of the paint. And that's about it. At the end of the day, you let it dry on the drying rack just like we usually do.